Hi, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Meet the Populace. This is a series I have put together for the Children of the Dragon page to help showcase some of the fantastic people we have in the Middle Kingdom. It's in this way that I hope we can get to know them a little bit better, especially during this time where we're unable to go to events and spend time live with each other. So tonight I have with me the Baron and Baroness of Andelcrag, and I'm going to actually let them pronounce their names for you because I'm not very good at it. So good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So why don't we start with you, Baron? Would you tell us your full name and give us a little bit of information about how long you've been in the SCA?
Well, my full name and title is Sieur Raymond d'Anjou. I'm the current Baron of Andelcrag. I've been in the society since 1990. And I've lived in a variety of places. I started in the Barony of Northwoods, and then when I met my lovely lady, I ended up moving to Starleaf Gate, where I ended up being the first knight of Starleaf Gate. And then we moved to Andelcrag about 16 years ago, or is it 17 now? Somewhere around there, and have lived here ever since.
Excellent, wonderful. We're so glad you made it here. Now, Baroness, boy, I really need you to pronounce your name, and then just tell us a little bit about how long you've been in the SCA.
Absolutely. Well, I have had 3 names in the SCA. The first was actually 4. Siobhan O'Neill, to be honest, was my very first name, and it turned out that there was a Laurel in the Barony of Andelcrag named Siobhan O'Neill, so I had to change my name. And it became one that I felt was unique. It was Cyrcin Morni Dermot, which was a early period Celt, yes. And that name stuck as I was in the shield wall of Darkyard, and it earned its reputation. So, and then as I became more involved in more gentler arts, I chose the name of Hoviette d'Anjou, which her name originates, she was a friend of Joan of Arc, actually, and that is where I chose that name from. And then when I became more involved in the Turkish arts, I decided to choose a name that was more suitable for that. And it is Zubaida Qilichlu Qari, bint Abed al Kadir.
Oh, I'm so glad I didn't try that one.
Tongue twister.
It really is. It certainly is. Well, welcome. We're very excited to have you both here. Thank you for joining us. I set out some questions beforehand to give you some time to think on them, and we're just going to go ahead and move into those now. If you both have answers, that's fantastic. If only one of you has an answer, then that one answer, and then we'll just keep going, okay?
Sounds wonderful.
So, wow. So we're just going to, everybody loves origin stories. You know, we love to know, how did you find out about the SCA? So let's start there. How did you find out about the SCA, and what got you involved?
You want me to go first?
Go ahead, Your Excellency.
I actually found out about the SCA in 1980 and saw a gentleman dressed in, I think it was carpet armor, and I did not have a very good impression of the things he was doing and saying. So I said, huh, that's interesting, and I went about my merry way for about 10 years. And 10 years later, after having nothing to do with the SCA, I was walking on the campus of Michigan State University with a friend of mine, and we looked over, and these guys in armor were beating each other with sticks. And we looked at one another, and we said, we gotta go check that out. And we walked over and started talking to them, and that was it. Just came back, learned how to fight, met a bunch of people, and been doing the SCA ever since.
My origin story is a little similar to His Excellency's in the sense that I was fully immersed and fell in love right away with the SCA. I was at the time working and a single woman who was bored with going to bars, and I found a flyer on the windshield of my car to attend a medieval fair at the riverfront in my hometown of Windsor, Ontario, otherwise known as Starleaf Gate. And I showed up there. I wandered down through the path and came upon this clearing with all of these amazing, wonderful people doing all of these arts and crafts and cooking over a live fire. And there was a list field where men were, you know, striking each other with swords. And I was immediately taken up with that and asked if I could participate. And they kind of looked at me. I was dressed in this cute little sundress, and they thought, oh, okay, all right, well, we'll give her a shot at it. And they put a helm on my head and brought me into the list field and said, okay, I'm going to hit you in the head and we're going to see if you can take it. And I said, okay. And so Baron Dermot, the beer baron, struck me a good blow. And my response was, is that all you got? And he said, you're in. And from that point onwards, I was involved in the SCA.
Oh, wonderful. That's just, you know, it's really awesome to hear, you know, the different ways that people have gotten involved. Flyers on the windshield. Wow, how long has it been since we did that? I remember when I first started getting involved, actually being one of the ones placing flyers. So it's been a while since anyone did that one. So since you've been in the SCA, I'm sure you've learned so much, from crafts to skills to people to life lessons. What's something that really sticks with you that you've learned in the SCA, whether it is a skill or a life lesson or something else?
Your Excellency.
Yes, I'll go first. I'll speak to the life lessons. And I know that many people know me as someone who's quite bold. They may think that I'm a little too strong in my approach in various ways, but what they don't know is just exactly how strong and bold I was before I started in the SCA. And I came from a very interesting background. Before I joined the SCA, I had a time in my life where I was involved with groups that were maybe not so savory, and I don't like to talk about that a whole lot, but I didn't know how to be with people. I didn't know how to be gentle and kind, because anything I ever knew was only, you know, the strongest survived. And so every day I learned the lesson of how to try to be more careful and gentle and kind. And it's a lesson that has taken years and years. And yes, believe it or not, I am much more kind and gentle and better with people than I ever was in my past. So for those of you who think that you can't turn that leaf, you can. But I also ask people to remember that not everybody is going to start out from the same place. So where we get to in the end is the main part.
The kinder and gentler Zubaida. I will admit, you definitely are a strong personality, and I've seen it. I haven't perceived it as bad, but you intimidate me just a little.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm easily intimidated. What about you, Baron? What's something you've learned?
Well, obviously, I learned the combat arts in the society, but to me, the thing that I brought that that the SCA brought to me was a increased awareness of other people's perspectives. Obviously, there's a lot of different kinds of folks in the society, and I have learned a lot about people coming from different walks of life and the different kind of views that they have, and have become a lot more accepting of those. When I was in my 20s, so I joined the SCA when I was about 28. So in my younger 20s, I was willing to argue about anything with anyone till the end of the earth. And I still have a tendency to debate, but I'm a lot more willing to entertain lots of different viewpoints than I used to be.
Well, it sounds like we've all learned some valuable lessons in the SCA. I see Zubaida sitting over there nodding.
I see how it is.
Well, she would have firsthand experience. So we're going to move on to the people, because SCA is all about people. This is the most, I think, the biggest thing about this particular group, whether it's local, whether it's international. We see the influence of people all throughout the SCA. So who is someone who has positively impacted you in your time in the SCA, and how was it that they did that?
Do you want me to go first? I will go first. The person that I'd like to mention is Sir Ragnar Drakerson, the late Ragnar. He was someone that was the heart and soul of Starleaf Gate when I moved there, and welcomed me to that group and taught me a lot about joy and happiness, and just a big bear of a man that many people who've seen this will remember, and many people who will see this will not, unfortunately for them, remember. But he, just amazing person who gave his life saving his lady. So.
Gave his life saving his lady.
They were in a car crash and he swerved the car so that the vehicle struck his side. So.
That's the ultimate nobility. That's beautiful. Sad, but it's beautiful. Zubaida?
Well, there are many people who have influenced me, Sir Ragnar being one of them at the very, very beginning of my time in the SCA, but I'll have a difficult time talking about that. I would like to say that Mistress Amay and Sir Garahan made a very big impact on me very, very early on. And I remember sitting at a big boy at about 2 o'clock in the morning after an event. Must have been 1991, maybe 1990. And I was sharing some activities that I had been up to. I was just sharing what I had been doing. And Mistress Amay made it very clear that she thought what I was doing was important. And that has never escaped me, that those small things that I was involved in, making crafts for kids, or, making a meat pie for a luncheon for a royalty room, was important because it affected not just that particular event, but it made people's lives better and easier. And it encouraged me to continue to do those kinds of good things for people, and helped me to find the path upon which I could become a better person. And I still work on that every day. But that nugget of her showing her interest in and his excellency, Sir Garahan, showing his interest in what I had done, was so encouraging for me.
Thank you. I think that's actually one of the lessons that I see continuing. One of the things that a lot of people feel is that when there's interest, even if there's just a few small words of encouragement, it helps to keep them going. It makes them feel prouder and better about their time in the SCA. So now we're going to move into story time. We'll start with Zubaida.
No.
Oh, yes. So we all have stories. We love stories. We love telling stories. We love sharing stories. The typical SCA, no duh, there I was. Because I'm keeping the language polite. All sorts of stories that make the SCA go around. So what is a memorable story that you like to share with others, you like to present and have them enjoy along with you? Zubaida. The funny story is his.
I have such a hard time.
Is this the heartwarming story you're going to tell?
Yes. Okay. The heartwarming story, because most of the other stories are not PG-13. So
yeah,
the heartwarming
story. Campfires.
Yes. Many years ago, probably close to 20 years ago, His Grace dog held a quest, and many people became involved. It was to seek out the dragon's egg, was the prize, was it not? Your recollection? You can't remember?
I don't remember this.
Oh my, okay.
And I remember he had a quest, but I don't remember the particular.
I believe it was a dragon's egg. That was the prize. And we had all gotten involved, gotten very excited, and we were marching down to.
Oh, I remember this now.
Yes. We were marching down to the Kingdom of the East to retrieve the egg. Was it Kingdom of the East or Kingdom of the West?
I think it was the Kingdom of the West.
And
yes, it was definitely the Kingdom of the West.
I remember it because I was 6 months pregnant and I was carrying a giant cast iron frying pan.
That was the thing that I remember.
That was my weapon, was my giant cast iron frying pan. Other people had, spears and swords and shields, and I had a giant cast iron frying pan, and I was pregnant, which I think is the most vicious creature you could ever come upon. Is the
most dangerous weapon.
Yes, most dangerous weapon. And we got there and we were demanding that the justice be done, that the egg be brought forth, and that because of, I don't even remember all the circumstances, but what I do
there was
remember,
a controversy about who possessed it and why they possessed it, and
exactly.
So that was what provoked this.
And so that's why we all marched down, and many of us from Andelcrag were involved in this parade of people who were going to demand this egg. And the person who had the egg was adamant. He was not giving up that egg. It was his by all rights, and he would.
Michael St. Sever, I believe.
Michael St. Sever.
Sir Michael St. Sever.
And he was adamant he wasn't giving it up. And we were fighting to get this back. And a young child of the age of about 3 or 4, maybe 4 years old, wandered up and said to him, "Sir, may I have the egg, please?" And
is that James?
No, it was a little girl.
Okay.
It was a little girl. It was oh my goodness.
She's not a little girl anymore.
She's not a little girl anymore.
Anyway, go ahead.
Anyhow, she walked up and she just so sweetly asked for the egg. And he melted. He just melted in front of us. And he took the egg and he gave her the egg. And this little girl became the champion of this whole quest after all of the,
well, he was in no way giving up that egg.
No,
he was
not.
He was not giving that egg
up until that point.
And then she just destroyed his defenses with a word.
Yes. "Please, sir, may I have the egg?" And he gave it up. And so never underestimate the power of a child.
Or the word please.
Please.
That's sweet. That's wonderful. I love that you share that with us. I wish I could have seen it. It's things like that that we love to see carried on in oral tradition because, during that time, cameras weren't common and, we only have our memories to share these things.
Exactly.
Now we're going to move on to the Baron. So he's going to tell us a funny story that's clean.
It's clean. It's funny to me. I don't know how many other people will find it funny, but I find it very funny. So cast your mind back. This was Penzic 20, and it was my first Penzic. I'd been involved in the SCA for probably 10 months. And the time came where my knight-to-be was going to take me as a squire at Penzic. So it was very exciting. Campfire, the Penzic environment is tremendous for those kinds of ceremonies. So I was given this ceremony, swore fealty, was accepted by my knight and his lady, given a squire's belt, and given a squire's chain, and I became a squire to Duke Fuyuzuru Tadashi, and there I was. All right, so freeze frame that for a moment. Now cast your mind further back. Tadashi, who had been a knight for a very long time and had only been a duke for a few years by the time that he took me, had quite a few squires, and quite a few of them were, in fact, I think all of the active ones were in camp. No, all but one were in camp that year, camping with us. So they became my squire brothers on this moment. However, his tradition before this event was to talk to someone, find out if they want to be a squire. Oh, you want to be a squire? Okay, go get yourself a chain and a belt. There was no ceremony. There was no giving of anything, just, basically throwing a wire coat hanger at them. And, they in fact put wire coat hangers around their necks. So they had been given nothing. given nothing. So here they all are witnessing this elaborate squiring ceremony, beautiful chain I was given, and all of this stuff, belt that had been made and everything. And they were furious in a fun way, but furious. They're like, what the hell is this expletives deleted at some length nonsense that he gets all of this and he's like the golden child, and what the heck are we? Chopped liver. So he looked at them, he looked back and forth at them, and he said, all right, fine. He had them all kneel. He took all of their chains away that they had provided for themselves. Keep in mind, he had nothing to do with it. He took them all away. He took their belts away that they had provided, since he had provided none of this. And then he gave them their chains and belts back. All right, in the ceremony at Penzic. And the minute it was all done, I shouted, I'm the senior squire. Because they'd all been re-squired at that point. And I was the senior squire after being a squire for 10 minutes. So that was the end of that. They didn't fully accept that theory, but I still hold to this day that I was the senior squire, except for Tarek, now Duke Tarek. Tarek was the squire that was not there at that time. So he was senior to me.
So he still had the coat hanger.
Yeah, he was still wearing the coat hanger he provided.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing with him. That'll teach him to argue. You'll have to pardon me. I'm leaning over a bit because I got a cat that's going after my leg. So, one of the questions that I find myself pondering, and so I like to throw it out to others out there that are listening. If there was someone in the SCA, either from history or from across the world, or even local, someone that you don't normally interact with, and what would be a question you would have for them, and why?
Do you have someone in mind, or someone that I would like to have a conversation with at this point is someone that I have talked to a couple of times, but it's been many years since, and it's actually Baron Thorvald in Grimmy of Northwoods. One of the first baronies in the SCA, and I would like to. I haven't seen him around the society for many, many years, and if he ever to return, I would like to sit down and just chat with him about the early years of the kingdom, the early years of the barony of Northwoods within what is now Pentamere, which didn't exist at that time, and just kind of his experience of winning the tournament that made him the Baron of Northwoods for so long, and some of the things that took place in those early years within this region that he was intimately involved with. So that would be the person I'd pick.
That's, and it's always great to be able to find someone to talk to about the history of your local area. I'm looking forward to, I'll be talking with somebody for one of these interviews about our local history, and I think that's going to be a pretty spectacular interview. So we're actually getting close to the end of our time now. I always save one question for last for all of my interviewees, and that's if you could nominate someone for one of these Meet the Populace interviews, who would that be and why?
I would love to nominate His Excellency Sir Lucian, Count Lucian. And the reason for that is he is a very, very quiet person who few people have had an opportunity to really get to know him. But when you do, he is an amazing man that I have become very fond of. I even don't get to interact with him very much. He's that quiet, and
he lives right over there.
And he lives kitty corner from my. I could shoot an arrow and hit his house.
If there weren't trees intervening, we could see his house from where we're sitting.
And yet I don't get to really get to know him very much. So it's very precious to me the time that I do get to spend with him when he shares himself. And I don't know if he would be willing to or not, but I certainly would like to nominate him.
That would be fantastic. I will see about tracking him down and see if we can get him on one of these.
Right,
what about you, Baron?
For me, I would say I would love to see an interview with Mistress Eovesa. of this area. She is an amazing person, but she's very quiet, and I would love to see some of the answers she has to the questions that you pose. And I would like people who may not know her to get to know her better.
That's actually an excellent recommendation too. I've had the opportunity to speak with her a few times, and she is one of the best people. It's always a pleasure to get to talk to her. Well, I want to thank you both again this evening for joining me for Meet the Populace. For those of you that are watching out there, we're always taking nominations for people for these interviews. And if you also have a question that you would like to see asked, you can provide both that or nominations to the email address on your screen. And I will respond to all emails and do my very best to get all those incorporated. I want to thank you for joining us, and thank you once again for supporting Children of the Dragon and the Meet the Populace interviews. Your Excellencies, thank you very much for your time.
And thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.